do I exist? What is right and what is wrong? What is just? What happens after death? Is there a God? What is truth? These are some questions asked by philosophy, and now it's our turn to ask, is there any value to it, or is philosophy impossible and pointless? The practical man recognizes only material needs, and realizes that men must have food for the body, but is oblivious of the necessity of providing food for the mind. A common notion on why philosophy is considered useless because people favor the sciences for its practicality and utility. Russell acknowledges that, and in fact asserts that utility does not belong to philosophy, and in order to find its value, we let go of our prejudices for practicality. But actually, every practical discipline was delivered by philosophy, and until now, unites it all, whether it be the sciences, the arts, and even mathematics. As these areas branch into their own, philosophy is left to deal with questions that have no definite answer. Thus, Russell's theme on the value of philosophy is uncertainty. But is there value in uncertainty itself? At first glance, we would think that nothing can come out of uncertainty. But we must remember that just because it is unknown doesn't necessarily mean it is a lost cause. In fact, this uncertainty frees us from the restraints of our limited living and offers us a never-ending relationship between the self and knowing everything there is to know in philosophy, in life. A relationship between the self and not-self, as the author writes. It provides us the avenue to enlarge ourselves and become one with creation and its magnificence instead of confining ourselves in the narrow windows of our personal interests. Philosophy connects us, and though paths may differ, the common aspiration is to arrive at the absolute truth. It is the doubt, the search, and the discoveries along the journey that completes the value of philosophy. And though philosophy delivers no direct answers to questions, the questions themselves turn out to be the vital driving forces of society. It has built the world as we know it today and will continue building it for as long as humanity lives on. It is the role of philosophy to challenge knowledge born through itself and constantly redefines what we know, substantiates existing practices, and strives to morph human life into one more worth living. In today's world, can we ask, why is philosophy still important? Now that we have a myriad of disciplines to organize our existence, what then is the value of pure philosophy? We can take a closer look at ourselves and see that at this time where money and technology make the world go round, it is easy to reduce life merely as something that fits into their amoral system if we are left unchecked. But philosophy keeps us grounded with our nature, safeguards our sense of wonder, and honors the mystery of our existence, compelling philosophy to be the invaluable companion in the gift of uncertainty.
As we explore the uncertainty, we often find ourselves being framed and raised by the constraints imposed in our society. However, we cannot expect to find meaning provided for us antecedently. So you are implying that there is no one-size-fits-all answer on how we should live our lives as cited by Socrates. Correct. If there's no fixed meaning to everyone's lives, what is the true meaning of one's life then? It's simple. The meaning of your life is how you make it. Always remember that we can make our individual lives full of importance, overflowing with significance, thereby that life is worth living. I am gradually being enlightened about the approach of understanding you are attempting to establish, but could you elaborate further on the governing concepts constituting such a conclusion? In that case, let us begin with the matters of humanism. What did I speak about humanism in our last session? You can conclusively ascertain that humanism is not a doctrine, rather an attitude. It is the standpoint crucial to developing a more encompassing view about living. Great progress, and it is noteworthy that humanism must be shaped in a way that maximizes its collective equality and universal relevance. Humanism should not be grounded by a uniform ideology that dictates people what to think and how to live. Instead, it teaches people how to find and make their conclusions in their individual lives. The idea of absolutism and universality that centers on morality, is that what you are trying to point out? Yes, that's right, because ultimately no single person's, culture's, or community's morality is objectively worthy of being imposed uniformly on humanity. Could you cite relevant and timely instances in which this description applies? In religious concerns, it is assumed that we must act following the purpose assigned to us by a superior divine being, when in reality, we must acknowledge one's rights and entitlements. In determining how one should live, we must allow them to make meaning for their own lives. In the current situation of religion, could you exemplify the negative consequences of the imposition of its concepts to society? Religion has greatly affected society after society. These outcomes are relevant in the misery caused by religious oppression and conflict that persists to this date. Let's start with the Bible. The Bible's definitive notion of men and women led to the criminalization of individuals displaying deviance. This includes targeting homosexuality and sentencing people to death because of their sexual orientations. Religion is also accounted for the burning of individuals at stake for heresy during the Spanish Inquisition. Religions have frequently been and continue to persist its cruel effects. Women and children have been deprived to actualize their potential, have been denied of opportunities, and have been oppressed at an unprecedented rate. On the other hand, religious followers remain firm in their faith because they claim they know the truth about things, mainly what their supreme being wants them to believe and do. Thus, they believe they have a responsibility to guide everyone in that direction. Those who disagree are forced to conform through the group's imposition of beliefs, sometimes through violence. When conflict arises between different religious domains, this consequently leads to turmoil. The consequences are detrimental and have caused the suffering of the minorities and underrepresented, women and children. The Taliban, ISIS disputes are examples of interreligious hatreds that consume civilizations and grapple them in cruelty. The irony, how can one believe that doing something is right and just and pleases the Supreme Being when their very own religious beliefs are already harming others? Agreed. With these issues concerning religion at hand, what do you think is the dilemma that motivates these religions to persist in imposing their beliefs, even to an extent of using violence and oppression? The problem is self-evident. These religions force individuals to conform and blindly accept the beliefs they are imposing. You might be asking, don't they have free choice? They do have, but religious beliefs sometimes overlap with their rights. After all, there is no good image of mass democracy in the Bible, and this is becoming increasingly relevant today, as majority of Christians around the world now support authoritarianism. Judging from this matter, we see that this submission as preached in religions is nowhere different from the submission demanded from people of an autocratic government as recorded in history. Could it be the fundamentalist phase of these religions that remain throughout that refuses to believe otherwise? Could be. In this case, every religion goes through a fundamentalist phase that is derived from humanity's less educated society of the past. Hence, this fundamentalist phase become the cornerstone of their faith today. With this characteristic of religion you mentioned, can it be likened then with astrology and magic? Yes. Because like religion, these systems of thinking remain unchanging, resistant to change, and Religion, too, has been overtaken by new human knowledge aligned with our current understanding of the world and of ourselves. Is this also applicable in terms of culture? Yes. In line with this, we must acknowledge that moralities are culturally complex. To form a moral code equates to dismantling the prevalent concepts of a rigid universal morality in humanism. Likewise, this morality must appeal to the current context of mankind and must be subjected to change. One example of these was when societies eventually agreed slavery was a universal moral evil. Accordingly, the judgment was not slavery is only immoral at present but was not in the past, but rather slavery is now and has always been immoral. Hence, here, we can see that when a universal morality is amended according to the current context of mankind, the new morality is also applied to the whole history of humanity. Can cultures rationally re-evaluate and revise their moralities in light of their current moral good ideals? Yes, opportunities for purposeful moral modification abound because individuals may gain control over their behavior and regard it as changeable over time. This is essential in developing people's capacity to perceive their behavior as modifiable when new learnings surface. Should we then be suspicious of groups that prevent individuals from changing their self-identities and dictating their lives? We should be. Humans are enculturated to allow for knowledge to evolve. Many people even started to regard such moral standards as deliberately modifiable and proceeded to experimentally redesign myriad of moralities of present human cultures. Along these lines, what do you think is the answer to identifying universal cultural standards? The answer is the universality of culture used throughout mankind, alongside with avoiding inappropriate cultural conditions. These include dictating how morality should work, preventing people from re-evaluating and modifying their social structures, isolating people to conforming to outdated norms, and promoting a one-size-fits-all ideology. With the ideas you enrich, I became enlightened of the negative outcomes attached to the one-size-fits-all concept. I have established a proper understanding of the consequences of this ideology and its purveyors that push everyone into the same mold, neglecting diversity and overlooking other factors. Indeed, because this forces people to find the fixed meaning already assigned in their lives and prohibits them of the choice to make meaning of their own lives. You mentioned a while back that humanism is an attitude. What qualities do you recommend fostering to live out this attitude in one's life? Well, always be informed and attentive. Debate, discuss, listen to what others have to say. Be open-minded in acknowledging that no knowledge nor idea is absolute and never changing. Respect individuals by valuing them for themselves. To stress the importance of valuing people for who they are, let us view the opposite in comparison, shall we? If there's one definitive answer as cited in the one-size-fits-all ideology, how do we view individualities of people? Well, if there's one right answer, then having diversity, differences, and distinction are considered deviant. Correct. Thus, we must continually examine concepts and assumptions to improve the present conditions of humanity. So, what is our takeaway from all of this? As we navigate the path of uncertainty, we discover and develop meanings for our own lives. It is a story in which we are considered the author, the actor, and the audience, constructing sequences and events, living them, and perceiving them with delight and enlightenment. As we further progress to human development and the flourishing of human knowledge, we encounter rigid traditional norms about human development that have prompted the stratification of power and privilege by gender. This is observed by several objective measures. Power and privilege by gender. Yes, this notion has prompted the privileging of males while limiting females. So much misogyny, right? Agreed. We have also talked about how the male-centered paradigm became the default, as complexities of women's moral development are misconstrued. As a result, the feminine personality is regarded as deficient, and her ability to care is even devalued by males. While the male-centered perspective is relevant in today's patriarchal societies, where discrimination among women continues to persist, and their emotional capacity is also viewed as a major hindrance to their achievement. Where are gender inequality and stereotyping rooted from? Well, these are historical phenomena that may be traced back to Adam and Eve. Eve was formed from and for Adam, and she was the weaker of the two genders. This was and still is the grounds to justify women's inferiority and subordination in the eyes of religion. Then, gender stereotypes are transmitted from generation to generation, including common beliefs such as women being born with inferior status, men and women are not equal, males are superior, and women may not be leaders due to their fragility and emotional capacity. Going back, to refresh your mind from what we have tackled before, what are other gender-based notions attached to men and women? Well, from what we have tackled before, women are relegated to childcare and the domestic sphere, while men are naturally suited to private and public spheres. No wonder social constructs and gender stereotyping are significant issues, obstructing the progressions of women to fulfilling leadership roles. Good memory. Women are neglected in male-dominated careers as they lack the competitiveness males naturally possess. As they say, the same mindset is pervasive in politics. Women leaders are still perceived to be docile and too emotional to lead. What do you think is the root of this problem? The absolutism and the never-changing historical dominance of men in politics. Well, this has developed the assumption that an ideal politician possesses stereotypically male attributes. Correct. The irony? As society demands these attributes from a politician, women are ensnared from this double-edged sword of exhibiting assertiveness to be an ideal leader, while simultaneously conforming to norms prescribed to women, such as empathy and care on the other. Despite their efforts, society will always favor a male leader over a female leader, as discriminatory attitudes on women's leadership capacity continue to propagate. Are the traditional norms risen for this? Could be, because how can aggression and dominance be commended while empathy and care are vilified? Patriarchy blatantly upholds women's subordination to and dependence on a man. Whenever unjust systems oppress women, female subordination is what males use as a rebuttal. Remember that these gender-based notions and privileges are not created by nature, but by nurture. Contrary to negative notions attached to women's ability to care, the increased engagement of women in leadership roles demonstrates otherwise. This is evident in how female leaders are responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite undermining the ability to care of women, numerous female leaders have exhibited this strength by exemplifying motherly qualities of compassion, empathy, and sensitivity. Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan, and Angela Merkel of Germany have been praised for utilizing a collaborative yet strategic approach in handling the health crisis. The pandemic has proven that women's ability to care for others and their sensitivity to their needs are human strength and not weaknesses. As the prevailing concept of universality boxes the males and the females to outdated norms, gender roles and responsibilities emerge and remain as recurring issues at present. It is an urgent matter to radically change the prevailing gender-based paradigm. To achieve equality, it is essential to establish equal rights for men and women in all aspects of life. Can we still apply the rejection of the one-size-fits-all ideology to rigid gender-based ideals? Go ahead. The strength of one gender is not a weakness of the other. Instead of comparing the male and the female and reinforcing conformity to existing gender ideals, the gender differences are something to capitalize on, and their specific experiences must be taken into consideration. The male attribute of assertiveness can establish solidarity among members of the society, while the feminine qualities of empathy and compassion can build enduring relations and long-lasting peace. Thus, This is critical in forging a more encompassing perspective and understanding the moralities of both sexes.
Despite purposeful efforts to develop an Earth system-oriented approach, the risks and detrimental impacts of climate change have become more frequent and severe, and humanity must collectively work together to mitigate potential threats that may disrupt the Earth system. To tread the path of prevention and recovery, integrating a functioning and effective Earth system approach is a prerequisite. One emerging paradigm is the planetary boundaries that seeks to provide science-based analysis of the danger of human transgressions in destabilizing the Earth system. Planetary boundaries refer to thresholds within which humanity can survive, develop, and thrive for generations to come. 9 planetary boundaries identified to maintain a Holocene-like state of the planet are climate change, biosphere integrity, land system change, freshwater use, biogeochemical flows, ocean acidification, atmospheric aerosol pollution, stratospheric ozone depletion, and release of novel chemicals. In addition, these processes constitute the interdependence of land, ocean, atmosphere, and life that collectively provide operations upon which our societies depend on. Essentially, these boundaries are critical indicators. If crossed, may lead to a major shift or disruption of the Earth system. Currently, 4 interlinked boundaries have already been crossed: climate change, loss of biosphere integrity, land system change, and altered biogeochemical cycles. With the growing issue at hand, there is an urgent need to implement the PB framework, or something similar, while simultaneously administering global development goals aimed at sustaining human needs, particularly a sufficient supply of energy and food. Despite the progress and increased recognition for the need of an Earth system-centered framework, observable effects of human pressures contribute largely to the severity of climate change. Some vital precautionary and preventive measures include learning from earlier mistakes, identifying the gaps that existed in environmental policies, and investing in science to forge a robust and evidence-based approach in monitoring essential Earth system processes. New research initiatives are likewise vital in the evolution of scientific knowledge, quantifying parameters and global-level boundaries driven to explore transformations towards sustainability. To this end, sustainable and equitable appropriation of natural capital within biophysical limits is essential to preserve human well-being. Science is our hope in understanding the plight of our Earth. We would be oblivious to many threats if it weren't for scientific research analysis. Thus, a similar and advanced approach is vital to understand environmental needs and to construct solutions to rescue it from the degradation. Change is an inevitable and irreversible variable. Its effects become increasingly evident in people, in societies, and especially in our environment. As change becomes an embedded factor in our trajectory to human development, we must therefore learn to develop the qualities of resilience and adaptability. As we explore the uncertainty, the likelihood of human development and environmental sustainability remains unknown. With the introduction of novelties to the Earth system, further scientific analyses are to be conducted, crucial to formulating significant plans of global-scale interventions. To this date, the valuable contributions and scientific updates of the PB framework are pivotal in guiding human societies to survive, develop, and thrive in the ever-changing world. This exploration entails a standpoint that views current human knowledge as flourishing and shifting in light of new information. People differ, life varies, and circumstances differ. Nothing is absolute and never changing. Thus, to allow a continuous change of ideas, we have to debate, discuss, and listen to what others have to say. Reevaluation of prevailing concepts aims at improving the present conditions of humanity. These frameworks are vital in solving the pressing issues we confront today. As societies thrive for generations to come, the meaning that we make in our individual lives is accompanied by the responsibility to achieve joint efforts in mankind's pursuit of an inclusive community and a sustainable environment.